Montego Bay United were rampant out west against Dunbeholden. Racing United keep up the fight for top 6, and Vere Phoenix United were kept busy by Cavalier. But we start one place and one place only, and that's at the Anthony Smalling complex, where it was a case of missed opportunities in the West Kingston derby. This is Match Week 35 review show. Yes, people, welcome back to Jamaican Fan, and well, on a weekend where the TV has abandoned us, the football goes on, and I'm happy to bring y'all what happened in Match Week 35. Starting as promised with the West Kingston derby between Arnett Gans and Tivoli Gans. In terms of the starting lineup for the home team, well, changing goal once again, Roger Williams is back in, so is Joel Jones at centre back, and Shea Smith get the start this time as Ramon Shepherd sees the bench. As for the other Garden team, there's a changing goal for them as well. Diaga Hartman is out, Nicholas Clark is in. Decalia Fuller is given a rest, so former Arnett player Steve Clark makes the cut, and so too former Arnett player Alton Lewis at right back. Now, when the game kicked off, it was a bit of a scrappy affair, although the Arnett faithful probably had their hearts in their mouth when Tivoli raced away here in the box. Roger Williams came out to meet the player and saw him tumbling down. Now, everybody was looking at the ref to see if he would have called an early penalty, but looking for the home crowd, he signaled a corner. So it was scary moments for the Arnett back line. But they quickly brushed that aside and started to dominate the game and create this big opportunity right here where the ball was swing in from the right hand side for Warner Brown, who looked like I felt he was looking more for goal, but it ended up turning to a good cross to his strike partner Fabian Reed, who really should have done better here but did not get enough purchase on the kick. That's how it trickled to the goal line but ultimately saved before it went in. Still 0-0, but Arnett revving up the pressure. In fact, immediately from a train right after that, the Tivoli backline were caught napping. Warner Brown had all the time in the world to line up this volley, but Clark did well to get it over safety. Signs that the Junglies are coming here for the win. Tivoli would get a little bit or more of a foothold back in the game, but honestly going forward, it was all Arnett Gans, where Warner Brown will get another big chance right here when the ball floated over from the right hand side, and he just could not rise high enough to get his header on target as he went over the bar. Disappointed for the new Reggae boy as that 20th goal continued to elude him. But what about his strike partner Fabian Reed, who of course has scored over 100 goals in his career? Well, he got a big chance to add to that tally when he was given this golden opportunity from the penalty spot right in front of goal, but he managed to blaze it over the bar. Somehow, this game remains 0-0. And then when you think that will be the last of the chances for Fabian Reed, he will get another big one moments after that. The ball comes into the box for the big man, who did well carve up space for him to take the shot, particularly from the same spot. But again, it went over the bar. Another missed opportunity for the Junglies, who must be thinking this is just not their night. And normally in football, if you don't take your chances, your opponents will make it pay. And Tivoli, right after that, finally started to look a little bit dangerous, started to come forward more, and then carve out an even bigger opportunity for themselves. From the corner right here, a very floaty ball was placed into the box. Russian Oldfield makes sure to keep his eye on it before nodding the ball back across the top of the 6 for Anthony Nelson, who somehow got his volley all wrong and passed the post. That should have really been the first goal of the game. Tivoli now after that was probably just riding on the momentum and was looking to end the half the most stronger, but who carved up another big chance again with another ball floating from the left, and this time it found Alton Lewis at the back post, who did well to one-time cross it to pick out Nelson right in front of the goal, but this time his shot went straight to Roger Williams and nobody can believe that we still not seen a goal yet. 0-0. And honestly, that would have been the last major action of the first 45 minutes. Second half now, it again started off a bit scrappy as both teams, trying to work themselves back into going forward. But eventually, Tivoli will do some good teamwork down here on the left hand side that was set up Radika right at the same spot where Fabian Reed was, but him too would get his shot over the bar. I swear, the ground staff would have to look at that spot after this game. After that, for the next 10 minutes, Arnett came back into the game now and started to dominate possession, but unlike the first half, I felt Tivoli did a much better job limiting their chances and not really affording them any real looks at goal. Then a little bit after that, being a derby of course, the game got a bit chippy as both teams were probably getting a bit frustrated and were going on each other's throats a bit. Before Tivoli would start control the game a bit more again, and were now conceding a lot of fouls just outside the Arnett 18-yard box. which means it's a dangerous free kick coming for them, but without Fuller, somebody else has to take it, and that man came very close on this effort that left Roger Williams frozen, but he couldn't get past the post. This is just a crazy game where the ball just refused to go in the back of the net. And Tivoli would have one more big chance to finally find something out of this game with this play right here. When the ball was playing from the right hand side to the back post, the player did well to stretch and meet it and get it back across the 6-yard box, but none of the two men there in green could stretch enough to get something on it to get it in the back of the net, as the ball just floated off for safety and leave everybody in bewilderment that the ball just refuses to go into the net. The whistle would not take long after that to be blown, and I'm still shocked to say that the game ended 0-0. So it wasn't for the lack of effort by both teams, but how was the game in terms of stats? Well, by the end of the day, Arnett had more possession with 54% compared to Tivoli Gardens 46%. According to this, Arnett had 4 total shots in the game, which I feel is a bit low compared to 10 from Tivoli Gardens. Again, it says 0 shots on target, but we are aware of Warner Brown's shot in the first half compared to 2 on target from Tivoli Gardens. 42 dangerous attacks for Arnett and 37 dangerous attacks for Tivoli Gardens. 3 corners for the home team and 6 corners for Tivoli Gardens. Alright, honestly, I have no idea where to start as both teams were absolutely wasteful in front of goal. I guess you could argue Arnett were much worse in this department as they had more of the chances. But man, we look back on those chances from Anthony Nelson right at the doorsteps in the first half, you could argue that Tivoli had the easier chances. And before we end the look back on this match, we have to end it on a sour note, as Roger Williams after the game was unfortunately stabbed and had to be rushed to the hospital. But I'm happy to say that further reports came out that the player was okay and in stable condition. But anyway, in terms of the scoreline, it ends all equal. Arnett Gardens 0, Tivoli Gardens 0. We now move on to the curtain raiser that was at the Jungle, where Racing United was taking on Chapelton Maroons. In terms of the starting lineup for the team from Portmore, 2 key changes. Ronald Biggs is back for our first start in a while in replacing Kadeen Young. Andre Clennon is back on the bench. Javon Cole comes in and there's no room for Javon Bosco. In terms of the starting lineup for the Maroons, while youngster Garfield Tomlinson is back in between the sticks, DeAndre Cunningham sees bench, and youngster Arain Watson get the nod in the attack. Now, when the game started, the Maroons, as usual, started slightly better, especially on the ball as they knock it around, before Racing eventually found their footing and was now starting to control a bit of the ball themselves. Before they fairly took over the game completely, starting to carve up some good chances and had the Maroons sweating a bit. And by the 29th minute, it was for good reasoning, as Racing would take the lead. A good slip pass was played in behind the back line here for Javon Cole, who racing towards net before slipping the ball past Tomlinson and into the back of the net. 1-0 to Racing, and you could say at that moment in time, it was fully deserved. Chapelton had a very brief moment of fight back after the goal before it was all Racing United again, but they couldn't find a second before the halftime break. But they did not have to wait long into the second half. In fact, it was just simply mere seconds from kickoff, 2-0, and Racing in complete cruise control. In fact, they had it so easy for the next 30 minutes of the match that Anthony Patrick could have easily kick up his feet and go to sleep, as Chapelton, while eager to get back into the game, really didn't cause much trouble to Brown in the Racing goal, while Racing themselves never looked particularly eager to go and find the third. The game was just simply drifting by until the 79th minute, when the ball was received here by Racing on the left wing before a one-time square was played to the back post, and Tajay Grant sneaked in between the defender and his keeper to nod it home. 3-0, and it was as easy as you like for the Racing United team. The Maroons were a bit deflated at this point, and even though they showed a little bit of gusto to try at least get one back, ultimately their spirits were broken, and Racing will see out the game in a comfortable 3-0 win. So not really much to talk about in this game, as it was kind of fairly one-sided, but how was the game in terms of stats? Well, Racing dominated possession, not surprisingly, with 64% compared to 36% from Chapelton Maroons. Racing also had 11 total shots in the game compared to 5 from Chapelton Maroons. 6 of those were on target for Racing compared to 1 on target for the Maroons, and 53 dangerous attacks for Racing compared to 32 for Chapelton Maroons. 3 corners to the home team and no corners for the Maroons. Alright, let's start with Racing here. That was a very professional performance, as they did just enough to get the 3 points without really exerting themselves. They keep up the pressure for top 6 and will go into that midweek match against Mount Pleasant with all the confidence in the world. While the Maroons, well, this is the first setback for some time for Russell Reynolds and his team, and honestly, this is the worst the defense has looked since he has taken over. Maybe they believe they've done enough now and they can take the foot off the pedal as they are safe, but I'm quite sure Reynolds will remind them it's not over till it's over. They still have some work to do. But anyway, once again it finishes Racing United 3, Chapelton Maroons 0. So now we turn back the clock to Sunday to check on another relegation fighting team in Harbour on their travels to Mount Pleasant. In terms of the starting lineup for the home team, well, changing goal here as well. Shaquan Davis given a rest as Tafari Chambers comes in. Jamai Tope is back from injury to get his first start right here. And of course, there's no Alex Marshall because of his nasty injury against Vere. In terms of the starting lineup for the Stars of the East, well, Andre Fagan continues to lead the line up front, and so does Luca Kong. No, honestly, this was an explosive start from Mount Pleasant as they fired out of the gates. They got control of possession fairly early, and when they don't have the ball, they were looking to press and squeeze Harbour any chance they get. But it was the play of Devontae Campbell that will light up the show. He had the first big chance of the game after some good work by Kimoni Bailey right here to not only steal the ball, but to help move on the play before it was cut back to the penalty spot for Devontae Campbell, who side-footed his shot over the bar. Massive chance for Mount Pleasant to take the lead, but Devontae Campbell would come again moments after that. Again, this time he was sprung down the left-hand side. He did well to cut in on his right foot here before releasing his shot. That just narrowly missed coming inside the post. Just a little bit more curve on that and Mount Pleasant will be one up. But clearly Devontae Campbell was in the mood this evening as they will come again through his exploits, again down the left. Once again he cut in with his right foot, but this time he was able to draw a good save out of Bennett, who did well to get it out to safety. Mount Pleasant and Campbell were getting closer and closer. But Harbour weathered the storm and kind of consolidate the game a bit after that. I was trying their best to come forward, even though they didn't really muster anything too dangerous on the opposite end. But they were doing well to keep the game at 0-0. But that all changed in the 34th minute. Instead of attacking down the left, Mount Pleasant this time come down the right through Franco Celestine, who passed off to Gadel Irvin, who decided to take a pop shot and he managed to go in. 1-0, and you have to wonder why Bennett was frozen on this line if he couldn't probably see the ball through all those bodies. But Irvin wouldn't care as he get another goal of the season. Mount Pleasant revved up the pressure after that as they were seeking the second before the halftime break and had a few looks on goal, but did not manage to finish off Harbour before the halftime break. But second half, they picked up right where they left off in the first and came at Harbour once again, once more by Devontae Campbell down the left-hand side, who did well to dance on the line right here before cutting it back for Nicholas Nelson, who got a good shot on target, but the keeper managed to spill it up in the air for Edwards, who only managed to hit the rebound against the crossbar. Harbour riding on their luck not to be 2 or 3 down at this point. Their only real retaliation came from this free kick here by Trayvon Reed, but he managed to blast it over the bar before Mount Pleasant start their attack again, this time with Devontae Campbell coming from the right hand side, who did well to beat his man right here with a nice touch before teeing up Nelson, who was streaking into the box, who kept his composure before slotting past Bennett. Finally, there was a second goal, and it was nothing more what Mount Pleasant deserved after some excellent football so far, 2-0. And in no time, they were wrapped up the game on all 3 points as mere moments later, Devontae Campbell once again coming from the right hand side, determined to get on the score sheet himself, managed to see his first shot stop, kept going, and got his second one on target. Bennett did well to get hands on the shot, but he parried it only to the feet on Nelson, who tapped it home for the easiest goal of the night to give Mount Pleasant a 3-0 lead. It was nothing much Harbour can do to really get back into this one. And Mount Pleasant wasn't exactly ready to call it quits as they were looking for their fourth. Again, Devontae Campbell comes in here from the right hand side, did some good skill work with his feet before teeing out youngster Franco Celestine, but he shot balloon over the bar and kept things at 3-0. But practically they would not need anything more as the rest of the half they were just simply quite comfortable, with Harbour only retaliation once again coming from another free kick. They would lose this one here in Draxall 3-0. So another game that was quite comfortable for the home team. How was the game in terms of stats? Well, Harbourview led the way in terms of possession with 63% compared to Harbourview's 37%. Look at the total shots here by the team in blue. Mount Pleasant had 25 total shots compared to 11 from Harbourview. 8 of those were on target compared to 1 from Harbourview, and 70 dangerous attacks from Mount Pleasant compared to 42 from Harbourview. 2 corners to the home team and 5 corners, surprisingly, to the visitors. Alright, let's start with Mount Pleasant here. It is clear they have gotten over their little bad form from a couple weeks ago, and goals are starting to flow again. Even better, each match day is another player having a monster game and stepping up. And this time it was Devonta Campbell who I would give man of the match despite not getting a goal on the score sheet. As for Harbourview, well, as I said a couple of weeks ago, they're not scoring and their away form, they're not picking up points. They have to change this quickly because you never know, they might just find themselves in the drop zone. But anyway, for now, it finishes once again, Mount Pleasant 3, Harbourview 0. So with Harbourview losing, there's a big chance for Molynes to get another win and move further away from relegation. They host Portmore United. In terms of the starting lineup for the Lions, well, they only made one change as Everall Swaby is out and Ricardo Campbell comes in. As for Portmore United, Emilia Russell was out, Clayton Peck comes in, Orlando Russell, who made a difference off the bench in the last match, gets a start, and Nicoy Gale also comes into the squad. No, it was an okay start by both teams, but you could argue Molynes settled faster and then started to dominate the ball. But that doesn't mean they were really doing much with it, as both teams kind of canceled each other out in the first 15 minutes, but the Lions were definitely trying their hardest to get the opening goal. They would end up getting their best chance right here when they forced Portmore into a bad giveaway high up the pitch, and now saw the Lions racing in 1-on-1 with goal via Richard Ramsey, but he couldn't quite get his angle right and the ball just missed the upright. But very close for the Lions. Portmore would have their say as well a bit. They were kind of more threatening, especially on set pieces, but again, nothing to really trouble getting Glenroy Samuels in goal. And they would have to thank their own keeper Russell at the other end to keep them in the game when Molynes from this free kick, but he was up for the test and tipped it over the bar. Still 0-0, but the Lions looking like they were coming closer and closer. But Portmore would be the ones that end the half much better, as they don't dominate the ball themselves. I was now trying to carve out something, especially down the left hand side. And through that route, they would find the opening goal. The ball once again coming down the left hand side right here before squaring it to the top of the 6. A kind deflection saw the ball falling just right for Robinson, who hammered it home and give Portmore the 1-0 lead right at the stroke of half time. Molynes had no idea what hit them and probably felt aggrieved that they gave up the goal right before the break, but the men from Portmore started the second half much better. Again, they saw the best troubles coming from set pieces, but at least they were dominating the ball and keeping Molynes at bay. In fact, they would do a much better job containing the Lions in this second half, as the majority of the second half, Molynes will have some weak shots and weak looks at goal, and didn't come anywhere close to really troubling Russell like they did in the first half. But Portmore themselves wasn't exactly producing much to kill the game off, which meant that there was always a chance for the Lions to sneak and grab a point out of this match. And they came close right at the death of the game at the 89th minute. They draw a penalty right here that saw the fans early celebrating, as they knew this was a big chance for them to sneak a point out of here. Dr. Thomas will be the one that takes the ball and put it on the spot, as he volunteered to take the pressure. Staring down Russell, tried his best to beat him to his left, but Russell pulled off a magnificent save and became an instant hero to keep Portmore's slender lead right at the death. The referee will blow his whistle right after that, and Portmore would escape Everville with 3 points. So it was a tough game for Portmore, but how was the game in terms of stats? While Molynes had 43% of possession compared to Portmore's 57%. Molynes really made an effort of it though. They had 14 total shots compared to only 8 from Portmore United. 5 of those 14 was on target for the Lions, while 2 was on target for Portmore United. 52 dangerous attacks for the Lions compared to 43 from Portmore, 5 corners to the home team and 1 corner to Portmore. Alright, where do I start? Let's start with the Lions. Well, it's another valiant effort here at Effortville, but that Portmore defense is no joke. They didn't play poorly, but with only a small number of games left to play at home, that loss would have sting. As for Portmore United, well, it's another game where they only score 1 goal, but it's another game their defense come up trumps. Although, massive praise must be given to Russell, who played well and of course pulled off the magnificent save at the end. Anyway, once again it finishes Molynes 0, Portmore United 1. Now then, we move out west for our next game as Montego Bay United was hosting Dunbeholden. In terms of the lineup for the home team, they made 3 changes as Brian Brown, Demario Phillips and Nevon Turner were all out in favour of Jordan Fletcher, Shea Benny and Denbro McKenzie. In terms of the starting lineup for the visitors, another big chance for the youngster Malik Williams to shine in goal, and that will be coach Harold Thomas' only change for the squad. No, we have already mentioned a couple of games that were a bit one-sided so far, and this one will be no different. Montego Bay dominated absolutely from the very beginning and carved out some huge chances early on, but somehow did not manage to get the go-ahead goal. But they will eventually get it by just the 29th minute. Captain Owen Garden took this free kick that managed to hit the crossbar. They kept it alive though, Mobe, before a beautiful ball was played inside the 6-yard box for a rushing Jordan Fletcher, who managed to bundle the ball over the line. 1-0 to Mobe, and it was fully deserved. Dunbeholden would have a brief moment of fight back with this big chance right here, but they managed to drag the shot wide before it was full-on dominance once again by the men in red and green. But they had to wait 12 minutes before they had a chance to find their second. Sloppy defensive work right there, draw down the player in the box. So it was a big chance for Shea Benny to step up and double Mobe's lead. But his penalty was saved, and Dunbeholden quickly tried their best to try counter down the other end. It didn't work out, and immediately right after that, the ball quickly came back up his side before it found Jordan Fletcher coming in at a tight angle, but managed to squeeze his shot under Malik Williams and into the back of the net. 2-0 and a big brace for Fletcher already. But Mobe were clearly in the mood tonight, and Shea Benny probably wanted to erase that bad penalty kick. Will come up here and try and best for even further out with this shot, and it managed to go in. 3-0 at the stroke of half time, and Dunbeholden can already put them bags to go home. But credit to them, they were a bit better in the second half, although Mobe still created more of the clear-cut chances, and again, if it wasn't for some good decent save from the youngster in goal, Mobe would have already been 4 or 5 up already. And Mobe kept going as they were eager to find a fourth, but they had to wait all the way to the 89th minute to finally get it, and it's arguably the best goal of the night of a nice build-up play right here. So the ball floated over for Captain Owen Garden, who did a deft back heel to set up Grant to smash it home and give Mobe that fourth they've been begging for all the second half. 4-0, and this was a clear statement of intent from the men from West. The final whistle will blow right after that, and Mobe will get a big 3 points here at home. So, as I stated, it was a bit one-sided, and while we don't have possession stats, it was probably clear that Mobe dominating that area. But we do know their total attempts at goal, and it was 18 compared to 10 by Dunbeholden. 9 out of 18 by Mobe were on target compared to only 1 was on target for Dunbeholden. 6 corners to the home team and 2 corners to the away side. 1 yellow card was in the game and went to the visitors, and there was no red cards in this match. Let's start with Mobe here. I remembered a couple weeks ago I opened my mouth and I dared Tiga Davis to release the shackles of this Mobe team and free them up in attack. Well, they are currently blasting in the goals at the moment, and it's a treat to watch. As for Dunbeholden, well, I also said a couple weeks ago it felt like this team's on vacation, and after this match I'm even more sure now. That fire they had at the start of the third round is all but gone, as they lost yet another match in a row. But for tonight, it finishes once again Montego Bay 4, Dunbeholden 0. Now we move on to another game, which was a bit of a mini derby, where Molynes United was playing the host to Waterhouse. In terms of the lineup for Molynes, well, all I can say is that coach Jermaine Thomas came to attack as he rolled out Rashawn Livingston, Nicky J. Murray, Tyree Wilson, and Jason Wright all up front. As for Waterhouse, the veteran Elvis Wilson is there at the back, Howard Morris is given another start, and so too is goal-scoring hero Nevada Blair into the team. No, Molynes are the ones that are desperate for points and desperate for wins, and they started off this game as if their life depended on it. They dominated possession for basically the first 10 minutes as they tried their best, unlock that Waterhouse defense and find themselves the opening goal. But Waterhouse weathered the storm and was known coming at Molynes towards the end of the first half and should have definitely been the ones to find the first goal of the match with this big chance right here in the 18-yard box, but somehow the player managed to get the ball over the bar from close range. A big letter for Molynes, and that will be either team's greatest chance before the halftime break. Second half now, it was a bit more even, but Molynes was coming forward with more figure. As I said, they were desperately trying to find an opening goal. But they would be sucker punched in the 63rd minute when Andre Fletcher started the play right outside 18-yard box. Then thanks to a give and go with one of his teammates, he was able to line up a good shot right here in the 18-yard box that managed to beat Dunai and into the back of the net. 1-0, and he was the captain once again, coming up trumps for Waterhouse. That spurred on Molynes in a full-on attack towards the end of the game, and they absolutely tried their best to get at least something out of the match. But Akeem Bernard and Waterhouse managed to weather the storm once again and managed to survive to the referee's final whistle. So it's a bit close on the score sheet, but how was the game in terms of stats? Well, Molynes had 47% of possession compared to 53% from Waterhouse. Molynes had 7 total shots compared to Waterhouse 8. Only 1 was on target for the home team though, and that again is their main problem, while 4 was on target for the visiting Waterhouse. 44 dangerous attacks to Molynes and 40 dangerous attacks to Waterhouse. 7 corners to the home team and 4 corners to the away side. Alright, let's start with Molynes. It's the same as I stated last time out. They just can't buy a goal to save them life, and they need one or their JPL lives will be coming to an end. While Waterhouse, well, they continue to scrape by, they continue to pick up crucial points, and they're now the ones back in that 6th spot position. And clearly, they would not be giving it up without a fight. But for now, it finishes Molynes United 0, Waterhouse 1. On to our final match, which is always a grudge match between Cavalier and Vere Phoenix United. In terms of the starting lineup for the home team, only 2 changes from the last match. Adrian Reed comes in for the rested Dwayne Allen, and Shaquille Steen replaces Justin Dunn up front. As for the starting lineup for Vere Phoenix United, well, the big news was that Tyreek McGee was back into the squad. Kyle Butler and Kevin Atkinson also returned from yellow card suspension. Now, when the game started, once again, it was a decent start by Vere as they looked to try and control the ball early, but it didn't take long before Cavalier would wrestle the ball from them and then went on a roughly 10 to 15 minute spell when they just had the majority of the ball. The only problem is Cavalier movement and passing was a bit slow, as if they were just going through the motions, and they were particularly like that for the majority of the first half. Eventually though, they waked up and started kicking into high gear, and eventually it led to them finding the opening goal. Some good work down here by the left hand side, so Richters have the time and day to look up and delivered a beautiful ball inside the box for his countryman Steen to side-foot it home and into the back of the net. 1-0, and Cavalier were just simply showing off what they can do once they decide to step up a gear. In fact, they demonstrate that just 2 minutes later again. Busy Atkinson come down here on the right hand side before cutting in on his left, deliver a good shot on target. Edwards did well to get down low and parry the ball, but Calvin was the most alert and managed to snap it home into the back of the net. 2-0, and it came at the right time, right before the halftime break. Second half, both teams were a bit even as Vere was now trying their best to try to come forward, while Cavalier was looking to retain the ball a bit more. But then Vere really started to pile on the pressure roughly around the 68th minute and was starting to get some decent looks at goal, till eventually Cavalier would succumb to the pressure when a ball was floated in from the right hand side, causing chaos in the box, and saw it drop perfectly for Robina Gordon to sneak it in between Barclay's legs and into the back of the net. 2-1, and Vere would be hoping this momentum lead them to an equalizer. But maybe they threw caution to the wind a bit too early as they left gaps in behind, which meant there was a chance on the counter for Atkinson, who managed to get it around an unrushing Edwards, who came way out of goal. They managed to keep his composure to trickle it in past the Vere defenders on the line and into the back of the net. 3-1, and it was a killer shot to the Vere Phoenix hopes of coming back into this game. Vere will go on to have more of the possession as they will try to get something out of the match, while Cavalier would gear down and just go through the emotions and see out the rest of the game. Eventually the final whistle would be blown and Cavalier will end up with a triple over Vere. So it was a decent game, but how was the game on paper? Well, Cavalier had 55% of possession compared to Vere Phoenix United 45. Cavalier managed to have 7 total shots in the game compared to only 6 by Vere Phoenix United. 4 of those 7 was on target for the home team, while 2 out of 6 was on target for Vere Phoenix United. Only 34 dangerous attacks from Cavalier, while only 35 from Vere Phoenix United. 5 corners to the home team and 0 corners to Vere. Alright, I will begin with Cavalier. Well, I dared them to take more of the chances last time out, and well, they were a bit more clinical. They weren't at their best, but it was still a very important 3 points to guarantee them a spot in the playoffs. As for Vere Phoenix United, I know Craig Butler won't give up on his players or his club and still believe there's a chance they can escape the drop, but from my point of view, it's just a matter of time before they go bye-bye. But again, for now, it finishes Cavalier 3, Vere Phoenix United 1. So that was match week 35 all wrapped up. Now let's quickly look at the table. Mount Pleasant of course is way out in front with 75 points. Montego Bay now has leapfrogged Arnett into second on 69 points. Arnett is in third with 67 points, but they have a game in hand on Montego Bay. Portmore are settled in fourth with 60 points. Cavalier got a much needed win to be in fifth with 53 points. Waterhouse are back in familiar territory, back in sixth with 49 points. Tivoli are still hanging about in 7th with 48 points. Racing are also a point behind on 48 points, but has 2 games in hand on both Tivoli and Waterhouse. Chapelton Maroons not quite safe yet, but they have 33 points from 35 games played. Dunbeholden slipped down a bit to 10th with 33 points as well. Harbour still hanging about in 11th with 32 points. Molynes still above the relegation drop zone with 32 points as well from their 35 games played, which means there's still hope for Molynes, or in 13th with 29 points. While Vere, I honestly don't think there's any hope left, but there are 4 games remaining with 23 points at the foot of the table. But alright guys, that's all I got here on this latest match week review show. Thank you all for watching, and please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date on everything in the JPL leading up to the final in May. Otherwise, with great JPL content, you're already at the right place. JPL fan. YouTube, big up yourself.